Welcome back, my fellow agents. It is I, X7, your master of monstrous mayhem and baneful brains from outer space. Also evil brains, too, but that's a whole different movie. Actually made after this one. Today we are going to be talking about one of my, it's not a top, probably not a top 20 of my favorite sci-fi movies from the 50s, but it's very enjoyable. I find it enjoyable. It is indeed The Brain from Planet Arous. I always thought should have been pronounced Planet Arous, but what do I know? It's like Dinosaurus, Planet Arous. So we do have some soundtracks here for it it's from a German copy of the trailer because it's got I think that's German and it might be Dutch too. I'm not 100% sure, but mostly it's just there's no talking for quite a while in it, so I can talk over it a little bit. Be that as it may, before we get too much further into this, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, and always check that star. No, it's not a star. Always check that bell so you'll be notified of new content every day. Grab yourself a big old bowl of hummus of perfection, and let's talk about The Brain from Planet Arous. Now, this is a movie from 1957. It was released August 1st, 1957. The budget was roughly $58,000 back then, so about maybe $150,000 today, maybe $200,000. Starring Joyce Meadows, John Agar, and Robert Fuller, and a bunch of other people, as we know. But it was an independent-made movie. It was released by Maquette Productions. I don't know who was actually released by. Distributed by Halco International. Don't you miss it when movies could be shown, independent ones, low-budget stuff could be shown in a theater or a drive-in? It was just fun. Those days are gone for good now. I suppose they're all direct-to-video. So John Agar plays nuclear scientist Steve March. Joyce Meadows plays Sally Fallon. Robert Fuller plays Dan Murphy. Thomas Brown Henry is John Fallon. Kenneth Terrell as Colonel in the conference room. And then there's a bunch of other people. Bill Giorgio as the Russian. Dale Tate is the voices of both Gore and Vol. But what the essential movie is that a fugitive from the planet Arous comes to Earth and plans on conquering it. He is not material except for once every 24 hours when he needs to intake. I say he obviously has a thing for blondes, but his name is Gore. And I like the music here quite a bit too. I think it's really well done. It's unusual. Well, they're all unusual.
You frighten me when you talk like that.
So, directed by Nathan Hertz, who most of us will know as Nathan Duran, who did many of my favorite movies. I mean, he's Universals. He's got a partial filmography here. Deadly Mantis, Brain from Planet Arous, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Jack the Giant Killer. Things we've talked about, except for I haven't done too many Harryhausen movies here, have I? Well, that'll change. I thought he did The Creature from the Black Lagoon, too, but he also did a ton of television. I mean, you can't even. Time Tunnel. He was one of Irwin Allen's favorite directors because he got things done on time and they look good. So you see the little star here. That's the brain landing. The brain's name is Gore. It's all right. Let's click back. Come on, Nathan. There we go. And he lands in, this is supposed to be somewhere in Arizona or somewhere hot in the summertime. However, you'll know where it really is sooner than later. And there's our hero, Steve, a nuclear scientist. He excels in the science of nuclear, or nuclear, as Homer would say it. But he discovered a blast of radiation, gamma radiation, I believe. And that's his buddy Dan, who's reading science fiction. We see this book a lot. Some digest. I'm sure that they didn't pay for the rights to use it, but it's up in Mystery Mountain. Dun dun dun. I mean, even the name. There is Joyce Meadows as Sally, showing up there. She's in the movie throughout. Strong presence. And it's all well acted, I think. I mean, it's preposterous. Mostly kind of let down due to the silliness of the brain. And there's Sally's dad, who is John Fallon. So that's our main cast of characters there. Nobody else really gets too many other notes. But Dale Tate there, who is credited as the producer or co-producer, provides the voice of Gore and Vol, and I believe he's the other professor we see in here. So we are now in California, and are now in Southern California in a very famous Bronson Canyon, Griffith Park, where the observatory is, and look at how raw it was back then. And you notice they're not sweating right now. Yeah. They say that this bunch of boulders was blasted out of the mountain, and they go. It takes them. They're going to be gone a couple of days, but I do have footage from about 2007, maybe 2006, 2007 of that I shot up there in Bronson Canyon, and I should really see if I can get some images here sometime, or some of the footage even. It's kind of fun. But there you are. That's the famous Bat Cave itself, among many, many other things. And you can see they're sweating now. I'm sure that wasn't even faked because it's hot there. And if they were filming this, if it was released in October, they were probably filming it in September or August, and it was warm. But this is where the radiation leads them. This new hole that's been blasted into the side of the mountain, of Mystery Mountain. Sounds like the Scooby and the gang should show up here before too long, doesn't it? But they wouldn't be around for another 12 years. Do you ever stop to think about they did the prequel series, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, that if he knew the kids when they were, young, maybe 5, 6, 7, and they were in their late teens, they'd have to be in their late teens. They're driving and, they don't live at home. So probably they might even be 20-year-olds. But Scooby'd be 13 or 14 years old. That'd be pretty old for a large dog. If, it's canon and who knows what. Or some people have thought about this too much. There they go. And now these canyons, these caverns they have here, they do split into 3, at least when I went there. And they're not they're not that tall. So I don't know if they empty them out or drag them. I'm sure they do because they just use them for so much. And then they have the inner ones. But I'm sure they shot in here. Look, that is the radiation detector there. Something's glowing. It's Gore. I think Gore is. I would have a Gore figure. It's just a brain, but that's the evil brain from outer space. Far more than Balcazar. Well, Balcazar is pretty evil too. He commanded monsters. Gore is an escapee from the planet Arous, and he's come to take over because he lusts after power. He's just generally evil, as in fruits of the devil. Takes over John there, or Steve, and promptly kills Danny, or Dan. Once he comes back, he's sort of Steve, but Gore is also in possession of him, so he can still talk like himself, but he also slips into Gore talk here and there. And then he actually attacks. Well, he likes kissing Sally too much, and their dog, George, he does not get a credit. So he's probably named George. Really well trained. Obviously, that's his trainer there. So they know that. So he doesn't actually chomp John Agar's arm off. Now, John himself has been in many, many movies, science fiction movies. Just pick one. A very dependable actor. I think he was in the many of the remakes. He was also married to Shirley Temple for a while. And I'm looking at his filmography here. He was, when she wore a yellow ribbon, Sands of Iwo Jima. I mean, The Magic Carpet as Abdul Hassan Al Hassan, Dr. Ramoth, and the Scarlet Falcon. I'd like to see that. I'm not sure if that's the one with Lucille Ball in it or not. He's in Tarantula, The Mole People, Attack of the Puppet People. He's a solid player. He got kind of typecast here, but he did a lot of westerns too, and not just here. So yeah, I want to say his last movie looks like it was The Naked Monster, but he was in Perry Mason. I should have that cue ready to go, but that might be copyright on Sven Gulli. I don't want to tread on his gimmicks, but he leaves Sally alone, and George relaxes. And there he is coming out to talk to him and gloat, and now he's going to take over the world and maybe the universe because he can do anything. Very powerful brain. And yeah, these are just superimpositions. This one isn't, but they obviously made one. So I don't even remember if, it seems like I remember that they used a tire or, rubber like that. So that it would be, they could paint it and it was sturdy, and then filled it with air. And I'm sure it's obviously on a wire or two. Now Sally's talking to Dad, and she's sure something's wrong with him, so they go up to Mystery Mountain, and they did their own stunts here, and some of them slip. Both Agar slips in the movie, and Sally looks like she's about to go down. And so finally, they get to the safe spot where it's flat, there by the entrance to the newly blasted hole in the ground, and they found Dan. Dun dun dun. And they don't even show you, so they just let you think about how gross he looks because he dies of radiation burns caused by gore. But then Vol shows up. You can tell he's nicer because his eyes are lighter, and he's got he's got a higher pitched voice. But he tells them what he's going to do. They go back, and he's got more power than Gore does, but he doesn't go arrest them right away. Go figure. So they decide that he should inhabit George so that he can be around Steve all the time, so we can try to trap Gore and take him back to the planet Arous. Doesn't explain how they got there, what kind of ship they use, if it's just mental telepathy or teleportation. It's only a 71-minute movie. I mean, it goes by in a hurry. I'm kind of surprised Sven has never actually aired this because it would be perfect. I mean, it's got a Perry Mason connection and it kind of needs that for a lot of these old movies. There's Vol possessing George, who doesn't seem to mind. I mean, as long as he gets his treats and can go to the bathroom wherever he wants. And he's an outdoor dog. Good-looking dog, too. Well-trained. Now, Gore is bragging to Sally about what he's going to do and how famous they're going to be. There's a wreck that he's caused. I think this is the other scientist that's played by Dale Tate, but I don't know off the top of my head. But everybody knows each other. So they're in a small town, even though they're full of these really smart scientists and military men. She tells Steve that she loves Steve no matter what. Little play on words there, because they know now that he's been possessed. But he's killing people right and left, so I don't know how that works. That would be Gore there, because he has to come out every 24 hours, and there's his weak point there, the fissure of Rolando, which is a real thing in the human brain. Why it would be there in an alien brain, go figure. But he's going to wipe out any nation that defies him because he wants to take over the world. So see, there's always a brain somewhere who wants to try to take over the world. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a sidekick. Oh, there's his sidekick who does a really good job of not being a goody-goody, because usually he was the goody-goody. And I think he enjoyed being a bad guy. Kills the sheriff here, or the marshal, probably the sheriff. There. So there's his famous metal-tinted contact lenses, or lined with metal foil that could not have been pleasant, and he said it. Later on, Gary Lockwood would use them in the second Star Trek pilot, where no man has gone before, and I believe that the other his girlfriend there, Sally Kellerman, is that Sally Kellerman? Yes, who has Dr. Elizabeth Denner used them as well, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm really impressed and a little sad that I knew that it was Sally Kellerman. So you don't really, they're light on effects here because they have to be. It was not an expensive movie to shoot, but I mean, Nathan Duran did a really good job. He used that pseudonym, Nathan Hurts, anytime he didn't like the movie he was directing because it hurts, don't it? I'm sorry. I'll see myself out. And all these, he's just musing on and dropping these cryptic hints about how things are going to be different here. And I have completely forgotten to play some of the.
It's true. I've discovered a power that's going to make me the most feared man on earth. This is a closed-circuit television set focused on the test area, isn't it?
Yes.
And these buildings and equipment have been placed in the desert for destruction by the atom blast?
So this is stock footage from the H-bomb test that they did in the desert. Good going, guys.
That's right. Would you all kindly watch the screen? What you have just seen me do to that one small area, I can do to a city, a nation, or a continent. Gentlemen, I'm convinced I saw him wipe out a city.
You sure did. Here's a general who pulls a gun on him and he just zaps him with his eyes. So his eyes glow. I wonder if when a certain Stan Lee and Jack Kirby saw this movie, would not surprise me, and kind of adapted this into Scott Summers, or Scott Slim Summers, if you want to go way back to X-Men 1, into his optic blasts. Could be. That would have had to have been animated. So he's given them an ultimatum. Everyone has to capitulate. The Russians, the Chinese, I don't know if he said the Chinese, but England, France, Germany.
Of concrete and steel by some power of mind. And my advice to you and to your governments is to take what this man says as a most serious matter. Any country I have mentioned which does not have a representative here present in this room.
There's our Rusky, and he was played by Bill Giorgio, as I said, with his. He could have been Boris Badenoff, darling. So here's our one miniature plane that blows up real good, and it's not. It's
we'll find
obviously
its capital city wiped out.
He does find it really funny blowing things up. That's, of course, gore, because, I mean, Steve's a good guy. And finally, they figure out, Sally does. She grabs a page out, a convenient picture of the brain there that has the fissure over Orlando, which is that one right in the middle, and writes it in there, Gore's Achilles heel. So, and she leaves it there. He's just waking up because he's tired, because he hasn't got enough oxygen. This is the big finale. It takes place about 7 minutes before the movie ends, maybe 10 minutes before the movie ends. There it is again, just to make sure that the audience knows, because dun dun dun, Steve sees it, and now the battle is on. Guess what he uses to a big old axe. He makes like Paul Bunyan, and there. There he is in physical, corporeal form. Now, why he isn't Vol? Well, Vol's there because Sally's there, and she screams, and actually Gore was going to menace her, and then the exhausted Steve he's had all he can stands, and he can't stands no more, and he hulks up, or Popeye's up, really, because Jerry the King Lawler stole it from Popeye, and Hulk Hogan stole it from Jerry, and everyone who does the hulking up thing stole it from Popeye, really. And Vol's just there watching. Then he leaves because Steve has reduced Gore to sushi of some kind, or what do you brains? I know that there are people that eat brains, but would you eat alien brains? Guess you fried them up. They probably taste like chicken, maybe mashed potatoes if you're my sainted mother. But that's it. And Steve doesn't know that Sally tells Steve that Vol was in there, and she's trying to get Vol to tell George, but he's gone because his work is done. He doesn't have to stick around. I would have wanted to say goodbye to him and thank him, but then that's it. That's the movie. That's it. I mean, there's no denouement. He doesn't have to face charges. Because what are they going to say? Oh, by the way, my boyfriend, fiance was possessed by an alien brain. Well, prove it. Well, there would have been all that goo on the floor that they wouldn't have had to dissect. So I suppose he probably would have been in the clear, but probably wasn't great for his career overall. Do you think? But there it is. There's Mystery Mountain. I mean, come on, Scooby Doo and the Mystery of Mystery Mountain, or something like that. Perfect, because they should really do that. So here's a couple of the posters here. We saw that very first one. There was a Blu-ray here, which I'm kind of thinking, because I looked for it. It was released in 2022, and you cannot find it. Joyce Meadows did a commentary for it. As you can see, it was done by something called The Film Detective. Now, it wouldn't surprise me that I have the Image DVD, which is just fine, and Wade, well, he probably sued them and told them not to do it because he allegedly owns it. I don't know, but you can't find this anymore. It's like $700 if you want it. And as much as I'd enjoy having the Blu-ray, I'm not spending that kind of money on it. Here's the poster, which, he kind of looks like a fiend from a fiend without a face, except that he's got eyes and that don't wave around. But it's a good movie. It's fun. I mean, don't go into it thinking you're going to get anything over the top. But once you buy into the plot, because you don't see Vol or Gore until about 20 minutes in, and since the movie's so short, you don't really have time to think about it too much. Now, I saw this movie, parts of it, when I was very young on, I think it was Channel 7, because they had a science fiction theater on the afternoon on Saturdays, where I only saw parts of it. I saw Invasion of the Neptune Men, Fiend Without a Face, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, War of the Colossal Beast, all of the, First Man into Space. All of these movies, I was too young to know. I never saw the beginnings, and I never saw the ends to them. For the most, I did see the end of this one. I don't know why it was on, but it was in black and white. Unfortunately, our television was in black and white, but most of the movies were in black and white. But it was years before I found out what many of them were, and they were memorable. They stuck with me because this was 5, 6, 7 years old before when I finally started watching movies regularly. Here's a lobby card, and we are done. But I'm glad that it's alive. I'm glad it was made. It's astounding. The cast takes it seriously, so you can take it seriously to an extent. And, by the time you want to see what happens by the end of the movie, and it's, fits in a 90-minute time slot super easy, and it's fun. So, my fellow agents, just be careful if you go up to a place called Mystery Mountain. And until our next assignment, this is X7 signing off.
Me when you talk like that.
It's true. I've discovered a power that's going to make me the most feared man on Earth.
This is the closed-circuit television set focused on the test area, isn't it?
Yes.
And these buildings and equipment have been placed in the desert for destruction by the atom blast?
That's right.
Would you all kindly watch the screen?
what you have just seen me do to that one small area, I can do to a city, a nation, or a continent.
Gentlemen, I'm convinced I saw him wipe out a city of concrete and steel by some power of mind. And my advice to you and to your governments is to take what this man says as a most serious matter.
Any country I have mentioned which does not have a representative here, present in this room, will find its capital city wiped out.